Was.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to start the meeting of the Dutchess County IDA. Jasmine, could you please take a roll call vote to see who's in attendance?
Dean,
Here.
Mark Doyle,
Yeah.
Kathy Ballard, Amy Bondieri. Here. James Bacone,
Here.
Juan Sagliano,
Here.
Alex Lozano.
Okay, first thing I'd like to mention is that we have a conflict of interest disclosure policy. And if anybody on the board has a conflict with any of the items coming before us on the agenda today, I would ask that they please state that conflict so that we are aware of it, and then we will recuse you for that portion of the meeting. I wanted to mention that I do have a conflict, a new conflict with Arthur May Redevelopment Holdings. Myself and a member of that particular organization are on a committee together in another organization, and just out of an abundance of caution, I feel it's appropriate that I recuse myself at this time. Does anybody else have a conflict?
I also have a conflict with that project.
Okay, the Arthur May?
Yes,
And your conflict is?
I've worked on it.
As they're a client of your firms? Okay.
So we may not have quorum on that item today, because that will lead, because we are missing 2 people, and then that's 4 people that will not be able to vote. And so there's 3 people left.
Okay.
So we may need to, we'll have to table it with the conflicts.
I apologize for that. I don't think we expected to have
Yeah.
a shortage like that. Okay, so
Is anybody anticipating arriving late that we know of?
No, both Kathy and Al said they would not be able to make the meeting today.
okay. So for the Arthur May folks that may be on the recording, unfortunately, we're going to have to delay your item for this meeting, and I apologize that we didn't realize we were going to have lack of quorum to hear that. So we will attempt to get that on the docket as quick as possible.
All right, I appreciate that, guys.
Okay. All right. Proof of meeting notice was published?
Yes.
Okay. Bills and communications, are there any?
No bills.
Okay, next thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the Wednesday, October 13th meeting. I believe that's it, right?
Yeah.
Has everybody had a chance to review those minutes? Okay, if so, I would entertain, oh, Mark.
I have if I've got the right set of minutes, a question. So there was I might have the wrong set of minutes, but there was an item that was moved, but the item was mentioned first on.
It was the appointments. Was it the
no,
the appointment of the.
Sorry, I was reading this off the computer and it's just like I had the wrong set of minutes. Just 1 second. No, sorry, I will. This is not what I was. I'm sorry. It was what my point was. There was an item that I'd seen, but it may be in the LDC that the item had been shifted to another meeting, but it was mentioned first, and then the fact it was shifted was mentioned second. So we'll come around.
Was this item withdrawn from the
Okay,
agenda?
that's why I'm not seeing it.
The Grand
Sorry.
the Grand
Yes,
Civic Plaza.
exactly.
Grand Civic
Thank you.
Plaza. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, it was in the agenda, but they withdrew.
They withdrew it, but what I was going to ask is that the statement of the withdrawal comes first rather than in that section. So it's a little confusing to read, but first there was a presentation and then
Oh, I
it's
see.
withdrawn.
Got it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it's the
Yeah.
presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not a correction needed, it's just for the
A
future.
restatement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Make a motion.
Thank you, Jamie. Can I get a second?
Seconded.
Mark, second. Jasmine, could you please take a vote to approve the matter? Or not?
John Sagliano,
Approved.
Thank you.
Dennis McCone,
Approved.
Amy Bondieri,
Approved.
Mark Doyle.
Approved.
Approved. Okay. Report of the treasurer.
Balance sheet as of October 31st.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So the balance, these reports were not included in the packet.
So the finance report was not included in the original packet because we did not get the information until recently, because we had a hang up on the financials. We didn't get the financials from the bank until Monday afternoon.
Okay.
So they are in your packet this morning, but they weren't included in the original packet. And it is kind of going back to kind of pre-COVID practices. Because we often got the financial statements later than the items were ready, we often only presented the financials at the morning of the meeting rather than in the packet.
Okay.
So it's a relatively new practice. So.
And well, also I should mention that this is not something that we have to vote for. It's for this, presentation discussion only.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be in the minutes or in the packet that is posted.
Okay.
But for anyone viewing us from the public, if they were to go to our website and look at the board packet, it is included in that board packet that is posted on our website.
Okay. Doesn't mean we don't want to try and get them out as
Yes, we try our best, but
far in advance as
the
possible.
banks just don't, because of the timing of the meetings and stuff like that, it's a real struggle every month to try to get it in time for the board packet.
Okay. All right. With that being said, Jane, back to you.
The balance sheet as of October 31st, 2021, there was a cash balance of 2.5 million and no outstanding accounts payable. For the P&L, there were expenses of revenue of 7.7 million to expenses of 7.5 million with a net income of 251,000. There was not much activity for the month of October out of the norm. 16,000 admin fee for North Cross and 1.7 million of pilot payments in and out. Any questions?
So we're better than our budget at this time.
Right, with 2 months to go.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
So in reviewing the profit and loss, I see that we have a over budget of 666,000. And much of that is based upon the increase or the over receipt of administrative fees as to what was budgeted. So that's 600,000 there, and the net 666. So the plan is that will go into our fund balance at the end of the year, because I'm sure for the next 2 months we're not going to have any material items. Say that they hit the profit and loss. I know you're just getting your.
I don't foresee any.
No other administrative
Okay.
fees that we expect.
No, so we are expecting, if the board, depending on the actions taken by the board today, we may have some more administrative fees before the end of the year, as with projects closing.
And we anticipated this when we did our budget work at the last meeting, that we were going to have a surplus, as I recall.
Correct,
And it was going to roll forward into the next year.
correct.
Other questions? Okay. This is just for presentation, not required to make any votes on it. Is there any reports of committees? Okay. Unfinished business. All right, that takes us to new business. For consideration and approval of a final resolution for rolling free-to-lay sales, Town of East Fishkill to induce a project. Sarah, do you want to kick that one off for us?
Sure. So this morning we have rolling free-to-lay sales in front of the board for their final approval to develop and own a facility to be located at 10 350 North Drive in East Fishkill. That is the front part of what is now occupied by iPark. It is the vacant parking lot. The proposed project would develop the property into a warehouse and distribution facility of approximately 158,000 square feet with parking for trucks, stormwater management, landscape, and other infrastructure. It is $100 million investment. They propose to create 80 FTEs. They are seeking approximately 9.3 million in exemptions in pilot and sales tax. The public hearing was held on October 8th. We had 2 members of the public spoke at the public hearing, and then 2 members of the public submitted written comments. A written transcript with the written comments were distributed to the board prior to the meeting. So with that, we also have Kathy Alfano is here this morning from Frito-Lay to answer any questions the board may have.
Anybody have questions for Kathy?
I don't necessarily have this is Don Saglan. I don't necessarily have a question for Ms. Alfano, but in reading the pilot schedule, it says that the anticipation completion date would be prior to March 1 of 2025. Is the construction going to take that long once they get started? Because the pilot schedule begins in 2025, and here we are at the end of 2021.
Okay, so we expect the construction to take all of 2022 and into 2023, and then we have to install equipment and then hire, and so we do think by sometime in 2024 it will start up.
And I would just note the way the pilot schedule is drafted, it's to give an example. And so
Right.
we say if it's before taxable status date in 2025, then that's when the pilot schedule would kick in. And it's for example purposes, not necessarily.
Yeah, I thank you, Council Capitano. I noted that. I just wanted to get an understanding of the scope of the project as well. Thank you, Chairman Dean.
If you don't mind. So Mark Doyle, I know that the UTEP, the pilot program, that it is a deviated pilot program, and that it's been set forth. Essentially, it was initiated by the town of East Fishkill. Nevertheless, since it's deviated, it's important that it fits our criteria to raise to that deviated level. And I just thought we could spend a second understanding what those criteria are and how this project fits that.
So, yeah, so in order for a project to be considered with a deviated pilot, they have to provide they have to show that they can provide benefits over a certain level, such as the amount of investment they are making into the community, the number of jobs that they are planning to create, the type of industry. We have priority industries. So if they fall into a particular industry, as well as any other infrastructure or value add that they are adding to the municipality that they are situated in. So in this case, Frito-Lay met all those, I would call extra criteria to qualify for a deviated pilot, on top of which we also have support from both the town of East Fishkill and the school district for the project. And so with all that criteria is what we consider when the board looks at a project with a deviated pilot.
I see that we have Supervisor D'Alessandro with us this morning, and I know that we have had discussions with you and input from you in the past, but I would just like to ask you again to confirm to us that based on your negotiations that without this type of program, that this program would not have been something that your could have succeeded in your municipality.
Good morning. How's everybody today? So yeah, the town of East Fishkill has been feverishly looking to fill iPark space and the former East and West campus of IBM. And basically that's 100% accurate. Without a pilot program in place, most companies turned away to build a new facility on either site. So Frito-Lay we had negotiations, they did meet certain requirements that we wanted, including a traffic mitigation plan that they'll be taking part of on the Route 52 corridor, which is going to be a tremendous improvement if you know that corridor. So we're hopeful that this would be approved.
Supervisor Del Sandro, I'm not sure if you know the answer to this, but I'll ask it anyways. How long, could you give a brief history of that parcel subsequent to IBM vacating it? What, a little bit of history of how, what things have happened or not happened down there that lead us to this time now?
So basically, as everybody knows, the East and West campus was owned by IBM solely. About 12 years ago, they came to do a subdivision with the town in the hopes to sell part of the property, which then they did to Global Foundries and then to iPark subsequently. The town did at that point initiate a GEIS on the site. We did that work to add a bunch of uses to the site because, as you know, there was only one tenant, one use for both East and West campus. And we wanted to change the whole program there. We wanted to have multiple businesses there to help the tax base for East Fishkill and the county. So once iPark took ownership, they started subdividing other parcels as well. I did help them go to DEC. There was a permit from DEC for their air quality, which permitted them from doing certain development on that site. And we helped fight with iPark to remove the air permit on certain parcels, which will allow them to have commercial development as well as industrial. So that site has been transformed from a one owner parcel, East and West, to multiple owners, which for the town, it gives more security for our tax base. And we are trying to fill it, as you know. I'm sure you heard that there's several other projects being proposed there as well. A warehouse, additional warehouse space. There's Liongate Studios trying to build outdoor and indoor film production studios, and also possibly a distillery. So we are happy with that model because we don't have all our eggs in one basket, I should say. And because the town did that general environmental impact study, we were able for the West Campus to be subdivided as well. And as you know, this board approved the Amazon pilot last year. So the town is in a very good financial situation because of these two parcels being subdivided and what we currently have.
If I might, again, I'm asking these questions because one of the things that we do see in the media and with people that do give us information at our hearings, there's constant feedback about why are we reducing the taxes or granting pilots. With the type of demand that you see down in East Fishkill, is that demand not allow you to not have to reduce taxes or to grant pilots, or why is it that we still need pilots when you have such interest?
So as you know, the Northeast corridor is serviced by I-84 predominantly because of the single rail availability that runs throughout New England. The infrastructure is very old, not allowing double deck rail to go into New England. So that's why I-84 corridor is so valuable with trucking and into from the middle Atlantic into the northeast. So that corridor also homes several states: Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. When we did a study of different parcels that can provide the same infrastructure, water, sewer, power that some of these companies are looking for, there were several sites available, not many, but several. And when you look at the tax dollars per square foot, you're looking at one parcel was in the $3 neighborhood, another was in the $2 neighborhood, one was in the high single digits, and then you have New York, which we were in the low $4 per square foot neighborhood. So if you are a company trying to come here, why come at the most expensive tax region area? I would, if it was me, I would go to, if it met all my other criteria, water, sewer, infrastructure, proximity to 84 in the Northeast corridor, I would pick the one with the least amount of taxes.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Mark, you look like you may.
I was on the point of saying part of that history is that, of course, with the exit of IBM, the loss of Supervisor Alessandro would probably correct me, 10,000 jobs or somewhere in that region. And so the return of actual job opportunities is a massive advantage to the area.
Yes, yes.
And not only to the town or the county, to all Hudson Valley.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? If not, I would accept a motion for the final resolution of this project.
So moved.
Mark, thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Don Sagliano, second. Okay, Jasmine, could you please take a roll call vote?
Mark Doyle,
Yes, in favor.
Jamie Bondieri,
In favor.
Jeremy Pacone,
Approved.
Don Sagliano,
Approved.
Jim Dean.
Approved. Okay, so we're all set. Thank you very much and good luck with getting started on your project. We look forward to hearing of its progress.
Oh, thank you very much. We appreciate your partnership and we look forward to the future together. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is for consideration and approval of a final resolution for GPSDC, otherwise we refer to them as the GAP. And Sarah, I will ask you to kick this off as well.
Okay, so the GAP is here this morning asking for sales tax benefit to purchase approximately $69 million in materials handling equipment. It'll allow them to expand operations and production at their site in Fishkill. Just to provide a little bit of background about GAP in Fishkill is in 1999, GAP identifies property in Fishkill to open their distribution center. They invest $150 million to construct a new Northeast distribution center, which at the time was considered the largest distribution center in the US. The IDA and the state and local entities negotiated a 20-year pilot, which has resulted in over $18 million worth of pilot payments that was collected on that property. Prior to IDA involvement, that those parcels collected a total of about $200,000 a year in property tax. At the time, GAP projected the project would create approximately 1,100 new FTEs at that site in 2005. And unfortunately, in 2005, they had only created 948 FTEs at that site, at the height having a little less than 1,000 FTEs at that site. And this was again prior to the IDA having a recapture policy in place. In the summer, fall of 2014, the IDA GAP embarks on another expansion project at the Fishkill site where they invest $96 million to upgrade and modernize the existing facility in Fishkill. It allowed them to add on additional fulfillment and expansion to meet the online shopping market. The project projected to increase employment at the site by 700 new FTEs by 2019 for a total of 1,200 on that site. At the time, the IDA renegotiated the pilot to be performance-based and not site-based, so that their pilot formula is tied to the number of employees at that site and no longer the square footage, which is the standard pilot formula. So at the time, the IDA approved sales tax exemptions and amended and restated the pilot agreement. In August of 2016, if you remember, the GAP experienced a devastating fire event. And in the fall of 2017, the GAP received state assistance to remain open while they repair from the fire damage, allowing them to retain all their employees and pay them during the reconstruction. According to the 11/17/2016 Poughkeepsie Journal article, GAP was able to retain 1,200 employees plus an additional 300 seasonal employees on payroll during their reconstruction in 2017. In 2018, the IDA approved sales tax exemptions worth $10 million for $125 million in taxable equipment related to the reconstruction and refitting of the facility that was destroyed by the fire. In 2020, their most recent employee report stated they had 1,400 FTEs. That's 200 above what they had projected at the site, for equivalent of 2,798 people with jobs employed at that site. According to the Workforce Investment Board, when GAP posts for jobs, the lowest starting salary currently is $17 an hour, not including differential and benefits that the company may pay. So today, GAP is here asking for an additional $5.5 million in sales tax exemptions. So they may invest an additional $69 million in new equipment at the site. Fishkill currently processes 500,000 units per day there. And with the new equipment, they will be able to process a million units per day. So we have Gloria here representing GAP for any questions that the board may have.
Does anybody have any questions for Gloria? I want to mention, I was not on the board when the original project was approved, but I do remember discussion after that about the jobs that were initially described and what they ended up being. And just as a point, it was not, from my understanding, it was not because the GAP wanted to cut jobs. It was because of the change in technology that took place between when they started that there and the few years. If we all think about how logistics has changed, it used to be a very manual process with people carrying packages. If you were to go into one of these facilities now, it is highly automated with barcode scanning and much fewer touches per package. So they were forced by the competitive environment to install that type of equipment, spend that kind of money, and it did require less people. But the good news is at that site, the GAP has continued to invest in technology. And even with fewer touches per package, they're now up to 1,400 jobs because it's such a critical hub of there. So I think it's important that we do note that even though the number of packages and the number of trucks and things that are going through that location has increased exponentially, the number of jobs down there has also increased at the same time for our benefit, because jobs are very important to us on top of spending. Does anybody else have any questions?
I think, if I may, Ms. Nelson, it's the same question as we rolled through in the past application, is given the research that you've done into this investment, what were the criteria that you utilized to make this investment relative to the alternatives that you saw in front of you, and relative to the tax benefits or the lack of tax benefits, whichever way this decision goes? If you could give us some detail on the balance of the decision-making process.
That's a very good question. So when we make decisions of where we're going to go, a lot of it goes into a place of, can the facility accommodate what we want to accomplish? In addition to what distribution center is servicing what area? And as far as the Fishkill Distribution Center, there's multiple of reasons why we are hoping to go into the Fishkill area. One is that facility will hold the growth that we want to have. Also, it services a wider area than maybe some of the other facilities. However, that doesn't mean that the specialized equipment that we are ordering cannot retrofit into another distribution center and then hold that. But then in addition to, as Sarah mentioned earlier, just kind of the history with Fishkill and Dutchess County and the state, we like the partnership. We want to invest in that area. You helped us through the fire. That counted a lot for us from a corporate perspective. And not only that, with this, we are adding 130 more jobs into the Fishkill area. So Fishkill looks very promising to us only because it can retrofit, but also with the partnerships that we have established with you.
Thank you.
Chairman Dean?
Yes.
Yeah, Ms. Nelson, according to your application, the permanent jobs to be added are 76 over 2 years. You just made a representation that you're adding 130 jobs.
Yes, that is correct. So on the application, it only asks for 2 years. We hope to add 130 over 5 years.
And has this equipment been ordered yet?
Since it is specialized, it has a long lead time. So yes, it has been ordered.
How does you've obviously asked for an exemption of $5 million in sales tax. Compared to other locations that you could place this equipment, what was New York's, what I would call extraordinary costs that require this type of benefit to you compared to these other areas?
So each area provides different incentives or credits to the company. So maybe it's not a whole equivalent of 5.5 million that Fishkill is off, that we could potentially get. It's a different criteria with any state that you go into. And so they're all relative, just maybe not necessarily a straight benefit as this is.
And then one clarification that I do want to make is that while they have ordered the equipment and any financial outlay they have made prior to receiving any approval will not be eligible for these IDA benefits.
Yes,
I'm
and
sorry.
we do understand that.
Yeah, so while Ms. Nelson has said that they have gone and pre-ordered the equipment,
Yes.
any financial outlay they have may have made to do that will not be eligible for IDA benefits.
Okay, any other questions? If there are none, I would accept the motion to approve the final resolution for GAP.
I'll make a motion.
Jamie, could I get a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, Jasmine, could you please take a roll call?
Mark Doyle,
Approved.
Amy Bondieri,
Approve.
Jamie Picone,
Approve.
Don Sagliano,
No.
and Dean.
Approved. Okay, All right, let's move on. The next resolution is for consideration and approval of a final resolution for USEF Tyranda LLC. Sarah?
So USEF Rwanda, excuse me, is currently building a warehouse and distribution center on the former IBM West campus. It is a 629,000 square foot facility. And the tenant is going to be Amazon. They have encountered some increased costs due to unforeseen change orders and some increase in materials. And they are in front of the board this morning to request an additional $200,000 in sales tax exemptions for additional $2 million worth of equipment. As a reminder, the project is to create 500 FTEs at this site. A public hearing was held on November 5th. No members of the public were present. We did receive 2 written comments, which were forwarded to the board with the transcript prior to this meeting.
Okay, Sarah, how does this compare with the total amount of sales tax exemption that we've granted this project so far?
So far, the project has received about, I don't have it right here. So the project was originally approved to receive approximately $3.5 million in sales tax benefit. With this increased amount, the project would be eligible for $3.7 million in sales tax benefit.
The reason that I asked that question is because I wanted to understand, I mean, if we considered and approved the original sales tax for that amount, I just wanted to know how much it differed. Just in my mind, if we felt that it was appropriate for an original amount of 3.5, and this is a reflection of almost inflationary increases or, increases that are actually driving up the value of the property even further and potentially, adding more benefit to the municipality. It makes me feel more comfortable with this. Anybody else have any questions?
Yep.
Yes.
Can we have the applicant describe the change order nature and why this wasn't properly represented in their original application?
So yes, I think we have Ryan.
Hi, everyone. Yes, this is Ryan Kelly. I represent USEF Rwanda.
Could you just talk about why this was, the reason that this 200,000, or I'm sorry, this additional cost was not in your original application, what caused it to deviate and go up from there?
So to sort of echo what Sarah was saying, so the tenant here is Amazon, as you all know, and they have various reasons for the significant number of change orders that they've made to this particular project, but in large part, it's to take advantage of just technological advances and just making their site more efficient through just design updates since we had our original design for the building. And those design changes to make the building more efficient, in their view, have driven up costs that we will need to incur for concrete, steel, and for lighting.
The efficiencies are not going to reduce the job count that's before us?
They will not. There will be no change in job count.
Okay, so these are not really inflationary costs. These are additional construction materials and supplies that are going into additional features on the building in the interior?
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions? All right.
Excuse me, Chair. I didn't get the representative's name.
Ryan Kelly.
Mr. Kelly, why are you coming to our board to request this if the changes were made at the bequest of your potential tenant, which is one of the largest companies in the world, why they wouldn't be able to absorb this if they are looking to take advantage of technological advantages and be more profitable. Why wouldn't your future tenant be looking at this as an investment in their own technology and bear this cost, which is probably, you know, less money than they spend on coffee on a daily basis?
So I'm not authorized to make statements on, I guess, on Amazon's behalf as far as I guess they're thinking of whether or not they can shoulder additional costs. The thinking here is that they would like to make the building more efficient and do so by adding additional features to the building, which will include increased costs on materials. And sort of our understanding of the purpose of this agreement would be if Amazon were willing to spend more on these materials, that was kind of the purpose of this agreement would be exemption from sales tax if they did choose to incur that spending.
I just also clarification is that with this project, the way the sales tax is structured is that there is a portion of the sales tax benefit that is allocated to Amazon and a portion that is allocated to Blue Water, the developer. So this 200,000 is going to be an increase to Blue Water sales tax benefit, not to Amazon's, what is allocated to Amazon sales tax benefit.
Correct. Thank you for that clarification, sir.
I guess the one comment that I would make is that if we're going to ask the questions that we're asking now, we should have asked those same questions when we approved the 3.5 million in sales tax benefit, which I think we did ask. And so I would think that the reasons that we granted the approval on the first 3.5 million, which was the investment, the number of jobs, and the overall benefits of it, the 200,000 that's being asked for in comparison to our decision on the 3.5, in some ways I could understand where Amazon and Blue Water would expect that we would treat any increases in costs the same way that we treated the first ones. Does that make sense to people? You know, I guess my question is, if we felt that they were providing us with a benefit and we granted them 3.5 million based on their investment in the number of jobs, and they're only adding to what we approved in an asset, why would we now change our view? Is that a fair thing to do? I'm just throwing that out there.
I think that's a fair statement, Mark Doyle. But in light of the other applications we're reviewing right now, it's actually just as much educational for us to ask these questions and look at the comparative situations that each of these find themselves in, because the three applications are essentially in the same kind of industry. Each is competing for a technological edge in some ways. And that's fine. That's their business. But in each case, well, there's a sort of a difference, I guess, in terms of assessing the property and the property taxes that accrue from that, between the sort of the application of general technology and that is fixed property. So in this case, it must be fixed property. It's going to the buildings and be assessed. And I think that is actually probably a distinction that we ought to be asking and making down the line.
Sure. Of the projects I think that we've talked about, this one provides the most jobs of any of them. That's a positive.
The other thing I just want to state is you have the project evaluation in front of you, and the benefit to cost despite the increase of the 200,000, it still remains very high at 32-1. So there's a benefit of 32-1 with this project. And at the time, this is at the beginning, at the origin, we don't know what the assessed value will be at the end once the town gives its real assessment, but it is projected that the new assessed value of this warehouse will be around $95 million, as opposed to the current assessed value of the property at $5 million.
Does any, I guess my question is, does any board member feel that the basis of our agreement, our original agreement, and then and now, where we've been asked to approve this increase, has something changed that would make us feel like we shouldn't be considering a proportional benefit to that project based on, did this applicant, should they have had this in the initial agreement? Or has the environment or the situation changed there where we would feel that it's appropriate to, to really change our philosophy on the project? That's something that I would like to entertain and ask, because I think that's really important that we discuss that and know it.
Can I, Sarah, you mentioned that there was an allocation of the original sales tax benefit between the developer and the proposed tenant. Do you have that information for us to use in discernment?
Yes, so I can get my computer.
When you, just a question, when you have something like this happen, does that does that create a change in the lease value between you and the tenant when you have to invest further in preparing this site for them?
Not for this particular site, no.
Here, this for 1 second.
But you asked a question, Tim, and that is, the question was, what, if anything, has changed between the initial request and not? I think that in essence, in my mind, at least, not speaking for anybody else, that nothing has changed, with the exception of the fact that we are, discussing many more similar applications, and we're becoming a little bit more educated on the facts. And so that is why this discussion is in front of us.
And I would readily acknowledge that we continue to face more and more scrutiny from the public to make sure we do our job. So I totally respect that we do that. I think it's important that we fulfill our role. So that's why I'm asking the board, please, if you have new knowledge or new concerns, that you share them with us so that we make sure that we do address them all. About these projects as they change.
Chairman Dean?
Yes.
I'd like to ask.
Yes.
What was his name again?
Ryan Kelly.
Mr. Kelly, could you share with the board what would happen with your development and your arrangement if the board did not grant this additional sales tax exemption?
So as far as whether or not Amazon would continue to pursue the change orders that they have requested, and whether or not USEFT Aranda as the Blue Water would then, I guess, make those purchases associated to those change orders. So I would have to take the information back to Amazon for them to make the informed decision of whether or not they would like to pursue the change orders without any anticipated benefits. So it's unclear whether or not they would continue.
One of the things that I would say, and again, I just want to be clear, I don't know, I just feel there are benefits and there are programs that are made available to municipalities and to this body for the promotion of economic development. And one of the things that I would be concerned about, and the reason that I've so carefully asked about, have things changed in the concept of why we approved this original project to looking at this change is if we were to say no, one of the consequences of that would be other future projects might say, if we come before this organization and this county and its IDA, and we have our project approved as it is originally designed, and we receive a benefit. If we come back and we have changes that need to be made that are reasonable and within the context of our original approval, will this entity grant us reasonable changes in our project? If the answer is no, that is something that would be a negative when another project might come before us, a concern that they would not get that type of treatment. So that's the concern I have if we reverse our thinking process on projects if they come back to us. Now, this project, again, this is just my opinion. If we said no, I don't think that the project would come to a halt. It's entirely possible that they might move forward and absorb this cost. I think my concern is the damage it could do for future applicants. Would this be something that they would say, you know what, we're not going to do this if they're not going to work with us in a reasonable manner, and we'll go somewhere else. And one of our jobs is to promote economic development within the criteria that we're given. And tax exemption is something that's part of that, as well as pilots and those other things. I'm not suggesting that we do these things willy-nilly, but I just want to make sure that we're thinking about it within the context of not just this project, but our county's reputation as a place that someone can come, propose a project and get it completed in a reasonable fashion.
So I have the figures for Don, but also in that vein is that this is only sales tax exemptions that they are asking for.
Right.
And the way that sales tax works is that 50% goes to the state and then the remaining come to Dutchess County. And then Dutchess County then disperses that sales tax to the different municipalities based on a formula. And then the way that sales tax benefit works is that while they are approved for a maximum amount, that they are not required to spend or the entire. So
they wouldn't get the benefit.
They wouldn't get the benefit unless they
this.
purchase it. And in some ways, it is to their benefit not to use the entire sales tax, because it means that construction has, if they don't use it all, the construction costs have, have come down. So again, this is a ceiling amount. So with that being said, I have the numbers. So for USEF, they are currently allocated 2.59375 of the 3.7 million, and Amazon is allocated 1,015,625.
And that's the number that's referenced in the draft resolution of the 2,000,005. We're at 39 that you represented, and the increase to 2,759,000.
Yeah, correct.
And I just want to mention something, Sarah, about your description of how the taxes are distributed. It really doesn't matter to me. Our job is to make sure that taxes are, only relieved appropriately.
Yeah.
The fact that half of it is where the state's not getting it, you didn't intend to say it, but I'm as concerned about the state not getting it as the county.
Yes.
We just want to make sure that it's the appropriate use of the benefit that we have available to us.
Yes.
Mark?
My last comment on this, and that is, the acknowledging statements, I guess there would be, not as opposed to questions, from the public hearing that the state, somebody in the state has said that there's a possibility of taxes being shifted to residents in these cases. It's fair enough to say there's a possibility, but in this case, if you look at the county budget and the town budgets, we are in a growth phase, and that there's no way one can say that residents are feeling the pinch of these developments. It's absolutely the opposite. So whilst it's fair to say in principle that this could happen, it's not happening.
Yes, actually, that's true. I mean, if you look at the tax assessed values of most of these properties prior to this, they were very low and had been low for quite some time. So, to actually see these properties come back on the tax rolls, looking at the type of municipal facilities that they may utilize, which would be some type of water and sewer, which in many cases are having to be developed with these. You look at public roads, there's very few public roads being added as a result of these projects. So there's not the increased cost for paving and plowing roads. And the reality is we've seen our school numbers actually decrease, not increase, the students in our schools. So they're not bringing proportionally larger number of kids to the school district either. So those are things that would normally drive up the municipal expenses. So in this case, it seems like most of these projects are actually going to significantly increase the tax rolls of those municipalities, even at deviated pilots, and for the foreseeable future. So it will enable our municipalities actually to maintain taxes, hopefully at a much more reasonable level. Any other questions about this? Okay, if there are not, I would ask for a motion to approve this resolution, if there's somebody willing to do that.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Amy. I will look for a second.
I'll second that.
Mark? Okay, Jasmine, could you please take a vote?
Discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. Yes,
Okay.
discussion.
So this is a $2 million outlay from what I can see within the application. So why would we be increasing the sales tax by 10% of that when the sales tax rate is 8.125? Is there any methodology on that? And if so, if it's going to be flat at an additional $2 million in taxable purchases, I would like to propose an amendment to reduce the 200,000 down to 183,750.
Just to comment on that, and I'll let Sarah talk about the exact numbers, but just keep in mind, they do not get the benefit, and it would be at whatever the tax rate is until they make the purchases. So I don't know if the exact number needs to be set, but if we do it at exactly that, I'm okay with it. If we do it at the 2 million, it does allow a slight variance if more is needed.
I have a question for IDA counsel. Who's the DTF 60 agent on this particular project with regards to this increased tax exemption? Is it Amazon or is it USCF?
It would be USCF.
Okay, so knowing.
Can you just for everybody?
Okay, so the DTF 60 is a reporting entity
right.
that reports to New York State Department of Taxation and Finance on the sales tax issue.
Yeah.
So if the applicant is establishing that they have approximately $200,000 in additional taxable purchases, okay. Yes, they only get it on what they spend, but since this DTF 60 becomes a flat amount, an applicant could put additional items in there to go to the maximum benefit, from what I understand.
Related to the project.
And as long as
Yes.
it's related to the project.
So my point was, if we want to allow a little extra leeway so they do not have to come back to us if they exceed it slightly, that wouldn't hurt us, but it would also, I have no problem if we want to say, we want to hear back from them if they have any more. Sarah, what is your comment on it seems like it was 10%.
So, yeah, so this is actually drawn from their letter that they had sent to us, is that they had asked for an additional $200,000. I'm pulling up the letter.
So, Mr. Kelly, question for you. What is the, if we were to revise and use the actual sales tax that we know and apply it to the proposed spending, that would be a lower amount. What was how did you determine this number that you brought to us?
Sorry, I wasn't sure whether or not I was allowed to speak during the discussion period. I just wanted to make a clarification. So we anticipate an additional $2.5 million in taxable purchases related to these change orders that I discussed previously. And then based off of the 8.125% sales tax, it comes out to roughly $200,000.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, so the answer was that they actually did back into the taxable amount from the spending. The 2 million was not exact.
Yeah, 2.5.
Yeah. So, John, does that make you more comfortable with the number?
Well, yeah, I don't understand then why on the evaluation that we're listing $2 million when the applicant just stated that they thought it was closer to $2.5 million.
So it's just the way that their letter was written to us. I just took that.
Okay.
I just added that, and that's why. So.
But does the letter establish 2.5?
It just says that right now it's 2.559375, and that they want a ceiling of 2.759.
So where does
All
that 2 million
tax
come from?
savings.
It was just
So-
the change in the delta in the two numbers.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So again,
So point of order, council, I had an amendment. Can I withdraw that amendment, please?
You didn't, yeah, you may, you may withdraw the. I didn't know that was a formal application, but if it.
I said I'd like to make an
Sure.
amendment.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate
I
that.
just want to make sure we're following proper protocols.
I want to say, I know this has probably extended our meeting a little bit, but I totally welcome and respect the amount of diligence that we're applying to these projects. I think it does show that we are, carefully looking at these things, and I do appreciate everybody's comments. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any other discussion? Okay, Jasmine, will you please take a roll call?
Mark Doyle,
Approved.
Amy Bondieri,
Approved.
Jerry DeCone,
Approved.
John Sagliano,
Approved.
and John.
Approved. Okay, moving on. We have for consideration and approval, final resolution for MHTC development. And 34 Eastdale Avenue LLC. This is a continuation, I believe, of redistribution of a prior approved overall benefits. Sarah, would you like to talk about this?
Yes, so MHTC, the way the agreement was approved was there is a master agreement where all the benefits were granted to MHTC. And then when MHTC, at the time of application back in 2016, it was unsure how they would be phasing the project. And the agreement allows for them to come to the board when they are going to phase out the project, and that an entity where MHTC is not the major owner will come to the board for approval for a reallocation of previously approved benefits granted to MHTC. So that is what is happening in this case. The board is considering the reallocation of benefits to 34 Eastdale LLC, which will house a salon and 2 residential units. The project will create 2 FTEs. A public hearing was held on November 8th. No members of the public were in attendance, but we did receive written comments, and a written transcript with the written comments were forwarded to the board prior to this meeting.
And I hope and do assume that board members do take a look at those public comments. I know that I do as they come in. I want people to know that we do, look at the hearing comments.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then here we have John Hedinger, Joe Kirchhoff, and Claudia, who will be a partner in 34 Eastdale.
Does anybody have any questions for these folks? I know these are very similar to other similar redistributions that we've done. Questions from the board? Actually, let's try and do this the right way.
Yeah.
I think because Don
Because you
pointed out,
wanna make a
let's get a motion to approve this. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. And
I'll second.
okay, we have a second. Now, is there some discussion? Project has moved to the point where we can now debate the details.
Oh, it was simply a question about timing as to when this business will open for business.
Sure, I can take a first shot at that. And Claudia, if you'd like to weigh in, by all means, please do. But Claudia is actually currently operating within Eastdale, leasing space in 45 Eastdale Avenue North on a temp. So we are trying to sort of incubate her business within Eastdale right now and get her a permanent home at 34 Eastdale Avenue, hopefully at some point in early to mid 2023.
So you're going to become move from being a tenant to an owner? Is that what we're hearing?
Correct.
Very positive thing to hear. Any other questions or discussion from the board? All right, so we have a motion and a second. Jasmine, could you please take a vote?
Mark Doyle,
Approved.
Amy Bonadari,
Approved.
Jennifer Cohen,
Approved.
Don Sagliano.
Approved.
Approved. Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is a final resolution for MHTC Development LLC and 5 Eastdale Avenue.
So yes, so similar to 34 Eastdale Avenue, MHTC is requesting the reallocation of previously approved benefits to 5 Eastdale LLC, which will house a podiatry practice and 3 residential units. The project is projected to create 4 FTEs. A public hearing was held on November 8th. No members of the public were present. However, 2 members of the public submitted written comments. Those written comments were included in the written transcript that was forwarded to the board prior to this meeting. This morning, again, we have Joe Kirchhoff, John Hedinger, and Dr. Sims presenting the project.
Okay, so just to see, can I get a motion to consider this resolution?
I'll make that motion, Don Sagliano.
Okay, could I get a second?
I'll second it, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, discussion, questions? Mark, you sound like you might have one.
I'm just trying to think how I want to phrase it. So the company that is receiving the benefits, 5 Eastdale Avenue LLC, doesn't bear the name of the business, and so I'm kind of interested in, and it's the same case with the prior application, whether what the benefits are of, and maybe this is not our business but yours, but I'm still asking,
Sure.
what the benefits are of using a newly created LLC.
Sure. Well, I'm happy to field that one first. very, very similar to other commercial developments along Main Street within Eastdale. Eastdale is really trying to, as with Claudia, as with 39 Eastdale Avenue, 38 Eastdale Avenue, 43 Eastdale Avenue, really create and champion an owner-operator construct within Eastdale Village that positions active operating businesses to serve as their own landlords. And as we've discussed in prior meetings with this board, we think that creates stability, we think it creates continuity, and we think it creates opportunity within Eastdale Village, within Poughkeepsie, within Dutchess County, for people who have never owned their own real estate before, would not be in a position to own their own real estate without the IDA benefits, to come into a place like Eastdale and really serve as a sort of bedrock for our Main Street.
Just to clarify, so John, so that I make sure I understand this, this benefit is not tied to it doesn't assure that Claudia's business or Dr. Sims' business would remain there forever. It's possible if for some reason that didn't work out, the space could be sold or rented to somebody else for another use. So I would think that's one reason why you're not necessarily tying the ownership to the current tenant of the business. Is that a fair assumption?
So it is a fair assumption. It's not tied on a tenant basis, but with the proprietor of the business serving as an ownership of the landlord entity, it does create a tie that is.
Sure. No, so I guess the owner does have the benefit of owning their property, but the reason that you would have a different entity owning the property is it does allow for different tenancy if the current tenancy does not survive for some reason.
Or retires.
Or retires. Is that, I'm just trying to understand, is that part of the logic?
That's part of it, but really I think what it is, the logic is more execution oriented. Having a clean entity that is really tied to development, which is a different business than say operating a medical practice or operating a salon, as the case may be.
I see.
It has different governance, it has different decision-making rights, it has different execution parameters, really to serve the purpose of getting the building built and operated versus the way the operating business functions. And those two things conflating can kind of muddy the water of either business.
Okay.
I hope that answers the question.
Yes. Does your entities maintain any ownership in this new LLC that's created?
In 5 Eastdale Avenue, we do. We have a minority position in 34 Eastdale Avenue. It's a slightly larger position. It really is a function of what works best for the business and our joint venture partner, in this case, Dr. Sims and his partners in the business. We are trying to facilitate their success and the success of their business by helping them through the development process to create very functional space for them to operate in and create that ownership opportunity that otherwise they would not have.
I would think it would be a positive thing as well. I'm just thinking it would allow you to have some say in the overall quality of, whatever is in your entire concept there. By having, a little ownership left in each of them, it does allow you some say in what takes place.
100% right. And it really, but it's also, we do this sort of all day, every day. Dr. Sims takes care of his patients. So development's a tough business. There's a lot of moving parts to it. A lot of things have to kind of go right successively. And we have a lot of reps and seat time trying to do that. Whereas Dr. Sims, his focus is on the well-being of his patients. So if he was trying to balance the delivery of a 7,600 square foot commercial building with attending to his practice, it wouldn't work quite as well.
Sure. How many more of these types of reallocations do you expect to have before you're totally built out?
It's difficult to tell at this point. We've come quite a long way. We have a ways to go still. Joe, I don't know if you have any thoughts on number of reallocations, but I would expect there to be several more.
Yeah. I mean, just a really rough guess, I would
Yeah.
think probably in the 15 to 20 range.
Okay, great. I just wanted the board to have a sense of that, but again, just personally, I would just like to say again how well this project has gone compared to what we initially approved and conceptually what your mission was there. You really seem to be staying on focus and on target with that, and it's really visually and I would hope economically really turning out as you envisioned it so far and as we hoped and approved when we first did it. So it's great to see the progress to this point.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion? All right, I think we can move forward with the vote on this.
Mark Doyle,
Approved.
Amy Bondieri,
Approved.
James McCollum,
Approved.
Don Sagliano.
Approved.
Approved. Okay, gentlemen, well, Dr. Sims, best of luck to you, and I'm sure we'll be seeing Joe and John again sometime soon as we hear about other projects coming up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, folks. Appreciate it.
Yep. Okay, the next thing on the agenda was the Arthur May the redevelopment, and we will have to postpone that unfortunately, and the applicants are not here. I do apologize that we did not realize that we did not have a quorum before the meeting, so that they did not have to come and be prepared and also be delayed in our decision. So we will try and expedite another meeting as quickly as we can for them. All right, so then that brings us to T-Rex.
Yes. So T-Rex is here this morning requesting board approval to transfer their existing agreements to T-Rex Shaner Hyde Park Holdings LLC, as well as additional mortgage tax exemptions for a mortgage of $36 million and additional sales tax benefit in the amount of $432,000. We have Steve Gerasi here. Is Tom Mulroy also on the call? Steve, do you know? Yeah.
He was on earlier. I don't know.
We can't see him on our screen here.
Yeah, no, I can't see him either, actually. I'm not sure what, he may have jumped off. I'm not sure what.
Okay, so hopefully he'll jump back on. But T-Rex, since they've been here, they've struggled to find a lender to help finance the hotel, as the pandemic has kind of shied investors from investing in new hotel construction projects. However, they have identified a new lender that is a government backed lender. Okay, here's Tom Mulroy.
Hi, this is Tom Mulroy. I apologize. I was on right up until about 30 seconds ago when I was supposed to say hello, and then it cut me out. So my apologies.
No problem.
No problem. I'm just running through background a little bit about your project, Tom, and so they have found a government lender. This government lender is at the suggestion of the lender as well as their attorney to create a holding company to act as the guarantor of the loan. And then as a result of the delay, they do expect additional costs. So with that, I asked Tom or Steve, if you can explain a little bit again about the reason for the creation of the holding company and then the reason behind the additional requests you have.
Sure, and thank you, Sarah, and thank you everyone on the board here for spending more time on this. And unfortunately, with the delays due to COVID, it's affected all of us in a lot of different ways. The reason for the structural change is the new lender. We had a lender a year ago ready to go, and then due to COVID, they paused it, and then we did not want to continue to wait. So about 3.5, 4 months ago, we started up with a new lender, and they have a structure with a guarantee structure that we had to modify our existing structure. The exact same ownership, exact same entities and owners are still there, same percentage as everything else. It just drops it into a holding company for the guarantor structure, which was requested by the lender as well as their counsels and so forth. As far as we're in front of you because of the increase of cost across the board for the sales tax exemption, as Sarah mentioned, it's an increase of $432,000, as well as an upward revision of the mortgage recording tax credit, as our mortgage is going from 26 to 36 million. And some of the high level reasons, and I'll let Mike Davies from PC Construction fill you in on any details you would like. Structural steel, for instance, has increased roughly 80% in the last 12 months. Light gauge metal framing, which constitutes the vast majority of the hotel structure, has gone up 45% just in the third quarter of this year. Gypsum board has also increased 20% since July. Copper has gone up 45% during the 1 year period. Obviously, indirectly related, oil has gone up 120% in the last year, and since spring, 25%. So unfortunately, it's affecting everyone, including us very directly with this hotel. So we're in front of you now to ask for these increases.
Okay, let's find out a little bit of where we are to see if anybody's willing to make a motion.
So there's no board
Oh, I
action required
apologize.
this morning because of the amount of the benefit. It does require a public hearing, and then they will be
I
back
apologize.
at December for their approval. But I want the opportunity for the board to ask questions and to be familiar with their request.
Yeah, my apologies. So we certainly have, an opportunity here to ask questions of the new entity. Does anybody have any questions about the reason for that specifically? Okay, let's move on to the.
Sorry.
Oh, yes.
I do. Specifically relating to the costs.
Yeah, well, yeah, so I was going to sort of separate them. One of them was to see if anybody had any questions about the changes to create this new entity.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second step, let's talk about the increase in costs. Mark, you want to talk about that?
Certainly. Thank you. Your letter presents a generalistic increase in values over a period of time with somewhat uncertain sort of endpoint. Well, in the one Ocean Steel says October 21. Now, I also know that costs, material costs. I know this not so much on a particular basis, but in general are beginning to ease. So timing when it relates to costs is very important. I feel like, in this case, and for our point of view, charts of increasing costs are less important than the details of the actual application, the cap that they're looking for, the specific numbers, and that we are going to be looking at the overall benefit to the community from this project, and looking at the benefits that they receive as a result of our granting it. That is part of our, the overall. We need to look at the cost benefit analysis to do that, and not at charts of increasing prices. So I guess my question is, will there be and I assume it's necessary to do a new cost benefit analysis?
Yes. So so after the prior to the meeting that they'll come for their final, you'll have a new cost benefit analysis as well as new project evaluation that considers their benefit.
Would you care to comment on what you expect that ratio to do based on these changes? Will it go down or up or stay the same?
So
again, just generally
yes.
speaking.
So I would expect it to either the benefit to cost to either stay the same or go up slightly. It is hard to say whether the assessed value of the hotel, because the construction materials costs have gone up, whether that would also increase the assessed value of the property. But the benefit, I'm pulling up an old report. Of the project was a 37-to-1 in the currently. So I do expect that benefit to cost to be favorable. It may not, it may go down slightly.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, so if as we move forward with this, I think it's been asked that we try and get a little more specific to the project about the cost, where the extra costs are coming, rather than general industry inflation or increases, which ones, and it sounds like I heard steel mentioned, and framing steel, which are specific to this project. Maybe you could give us an idea of, within the categories of materials that you have, where those changes have taken place. Anything else? Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
Would you like those now, or is this for another time?
Well, this is not the time when you're asking for approval, but if you want to give some more specifics to us, well, I guess we would welcome that.
Well, yes, absolutely. I actually gave you highlights, and I'd like to defer to PC Construction, who's on the phone, Mike Davies, and he can give you specifics beyond what I've given you on a big picture.
Good morning, everyone. Mike Davies from PC. I'm located here in the Poughkeepsie office, but PC has offices from Maine down to Florida, and just high level, we're seeing this all up and down the East Coast here. Tom touched on steel. Steel is probably the largest impact to this project, but we have seen every single division, if we consider 16 divisions of subcontractors. Basically, we've seen increases anywhere from 15 to 300% on materials in the past couple of years. So we could provide a more detailed analysis for you for sure. But steel would probably be the big one. Drywall, maybe second. We've got the building, for those who don't know, is framed completely out of steel, basically out of structural steel on the first floor, light gauge metal on the exterior walls from floors 2 through 5. And then all the interior walls are metal as well. The only wood on the project is in the roof. And while wood was a leader about 8 months ago in cost increases, wood has come down a little bit, but unfortunately steel has not. It's somewhat plateaued, and you see drops, here and there, up and down day by day, but for the most part, it's still through the roof. But yeah, we're happy to provide a more detailed analysis for you, division by division.
I think that sounds like it would be helpful for the actual formal presentation. And again, the benefit would not be granted unless they purchase the materials, right? So we're really, in effect, we're increasing the amount available based on their forecast of materials costs. But if they don't come to fruition, they won't get it. And I'm hoping, it seems to me, that it would be in their best interest if materials dropped to buy them at a cheaper price or not. The benefit that we're granting is not more important than reducing their material costs overall. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so Sarah, the next step is?
So the public hearing will occur, and then they will, after the public hearing, they will come back to the board for their approval.
Okay. All right, third quarter IDA and LDC updates.
Okay, so in your packet, you will see the third quarter outcome report. The first one is our business attraction program. We've been doing very well. We've actually exceeded our goal of 50 request for information at the end of third quarter, we're at 51. Last time I made this report, there was a question about where our leads were coming from. So you will see our lead source, a table below. Majority of our leads are actually direct inbound. They are calling our office directly for sites. So the next most popular source for these leads is New York State.
Yeah, what I was trying to get an idea of is what of the leads coming in or something as a result of our proactive efforts versus just general people calling. So
Yeah.
it's very difficult to quantify.
And also too, with, even though they're direct inbound, it may be a result of our marketing.
Well, that's what I'm
And
saying.
yeah, and our website and.
Does
the
anybody
website.
ask the question, where did you hear about us?
So we should start, we actually are now starting after your question
Yes.
to take information of where they're getting it. A lot of the number one is so far is our website. And then the other one is they first hear of us on LinkedIn because we are very active on LinkedIn, targeted towards site selectors. And then is our website. And then there'll be certain, I think one or two that we received recently have been because of recent announcements. Like we had the Amazon announcement earlier this year, and then Frito-Lay's announcement. So there's been a little bit of interest.
Sure.
for
People see
that.
them coming here and they wonder, well, what made them come here?
Exactly.
How, just again, just a question, what makes them find our website? Are they going on search criteria and then that leads them to us? What's getting them to the website? I mean, they don't just go on and type in Dutchess County of all the options.
So a lot of times, especially the site selectors, these bigger ones have consultants,
Right.
and they do a kind of a radius of like, we want to be near the New York City metro area, we want to be near, and so that narrows it down, and then they are able to, most of these site selectors are familiar with the area, and they do come to our website to learn about what incentives, and a lot of times, especially if it's a site selector consultant that has come to contact us, they are very familiar with incentives that an area may, especially New York State or even down to the county level of what incentives are already. And this is something that they pose to their company, saying that these would be ideal sites based on what is available. But it is also, again, like I said, LinkedIn. We do market ourselves on LinkedIn very aggressively.
Okay. All right.
Well, I'm sure we're not just advertising our incentives, but also.
Oh, yes,
the
no,
quality
actually,
of life
yeah, and actually we don't,
otherwise it's a race to
yes,
the bottom.
and actually we don't advertise our incentives. I didn't mean to say that, but like, we advertise the business advantage of being in Dutchess County, it's just that the site selectors are aware of that, and so they bring that, but we, we had talked about, like before, the 84, the thruway being so close, our proximity to New York City, the population that is within a 100-mile radius of Dutchess County, as well as the diverse industries that are located here, that we are not just a one industry county, but we have a lot of diversity in our industry here, so. As well as workforce availability.
Yes,
that's huge, So with that, we're doing very well. We did successfully attract 3 businesses earlier this year. Amazon, AP Packaging, 2 of which the IEA saw, and then the third one is Brogue Motorcycles. It is a custom motorcycle company originally located in Arizona. They are actually going to be located on West Road. They are a small shop. It is right now 3 people working at the shop, and they hope to increase to 7 in the next 5 years. They found us through our websites.
And they're a manufacturer.
And they're a manufacturer, and they make high-end custom motorcycles.
That's pretty neat.
And so while we while the IDA did not provide any benefits, we did link them with workforce investment board grants to attract them here. So that is the companies that we've attracted. They cut the new business attracted in priority sectors is cut. So Rogue is the third one in there as well. If you look down the project pipeline, we've completed 4 projects. That includes the Board of Elections. That was a relocation. They were located on Cannon Street and they've relocated to a new location. I can picture it. I don't know.
Like Cosmos?
Yes. In Delfield.
What?
Like Cosmos on Bellevue?
Oh, yes. And I understand that there's somebody working potentially on that Board of Elections building in the city of Poughkeepsie to make it into a ground floor retail and upper levels apartments as well.
Yes.
So
Yeah, so if you remember 40 Cannon, Queen
Sullivan's.
is the Sullivans. We helped them with their project to create 40 Cannon. They have bought the property, the former Board of Elections building, and they have plans to convert that into commercial and residential.
that is a city of Poughkeepsie project. We helped out with the original one because the city of Poughkeepsie IDA board was not at that time operating, and they asked us to help. So, but you know, hopefully the IDA and the city will handle this new project. Okay.
And then the next, moving, any questions about this attraction? Business retention and expansion program is also doing very well. We are on track to meet our goal of 65 businesses that we visit on our site visit program. Our general counseling and referral to community partners is up very high. Again, this year, a lot of it was beginning of this year. We still had a lot of inquiries regarding the effects of the pandemic and looking for assistance with the EIDL loans and other programs that New York State was doing. So it was very high due to that. I think once the pandemic relief programs start to expire, I will see that technical assistance numbers kind of drop a little bit. But we've assisted quite a few number of businesses this year with that. Also, we assisted 4 businesses to submit their application for MWBE designation. We hosted 1 60-hour entrepreneur program, and then we've hosted year-to-date 18 virtual workshops targeted to entrepreneurs, of which 34 Dutchess County businesses have attended. For year end and 2022, we created a separate outcome table with the county for the ARP money. So this does not include the micro marketing assistance program. An update on the program started with the ARP money is that the micro marketing program has started. We have 45 businesses enrolled. All 45 have signed up for their chamber membership. About 30 have completed the survey and are currently undergoing a marketing audit. About 5 of those have completed the audit and have already completed their marketing plan. And several have also participated in the free seminars that we are offering for the next year that they are allowed to participate in. So that program is going very well. The other 2 programs are still in planning stage, and we hope to have those kicked off in 2022.
How do you determine what businesses that you're going to visit in the first things? 65 is the target, but what's the criteria used to identify?
So we usually around this time come up with a list of targets that we want to visit this year, and we always have like a core of manufacturers as well as industries that we want to maybe help foster. So a majority, about half of these are manufacturers that we visit.
And so that's a reoccurring?
That's a reoccurring. So they are often, I would say, 30 3 are manufacturers that we visit on an annual basis that we have for a number of years. And will help with expansions and things like that. And Hatfield is a good example. Hatfield is a business that we have been visiting for a number of years. And when they had their expansion, we talked to them. We've helped them over the years with workforce and most recently the IDA. But this is something that we do on a regular basis. And then there's about 10 to 12 that we add that are new that we will identify and try to get into. And then the remaining are usually businesses that call us and or we make cold calls to that. We'll find out along the way. Like we'll get like we'll go to a chamber breakfast and we'll find a new business and we'll ask them, can we do a site visit, or we get a referral from a partner business, Workforce Investment Board will say, oh, I so-and-so called me, do you know them? And we're like, we don't, and then we'll make a visit. Things like that. So,
I noticed that you had a goal of 9 workshops, you did 18.
Yes.
But you did 18 with 34 businesses. So that means the average is 1 to 2 people.
So yeah, and it's virtual and some of them are repeats because it's a series.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So we did a series on how to like use Google My Business and other online tools, and that was a 6th series.
Okay, so when it's 18, it could be 2 groups.
2 groups
or
yes.
3 groups.
Yeah, yeah. So and I can be clear on this. So the next couple regards to our marketing program. So we have been our earned income media program has been very, very busy. And we have made by the end of 3rd quarter, 7 pitches to journalists. For press visits, we are slightly behind on that, is that we had a site visit, a journalist visit last week. And we were supposed to have a journalist visit in September, but because of the concern of the Delta variant, they had pulled out. What we're seeing is that while travel journalists related to tourism, you're seeing more of that. Journalists that are industry-based journalists are less open to traveling. So it's been a struggle to do that. But despite that, we've done very well on our earned media. We've done several reactive media relations, and our media relations, we succeed, and we're like 3 times over our goal. And that's based on our pitches. And you'll see below the list of all the proactive and reactive pitches that we have made this year.
Tell me how what the 426,854,992 media relations represents.
So those are impressions on our stories. So many of these stories, the media outlet that's their reach of the, like, let's say it'll be their readership. There'll be people who follow them on their social media. So it's a formula that our marketing firm DCI uses, that the story, once it's published, it'd have reached that many people. So of all the stories that we've done, that is the.
I can go out on Route 9 and reach 325,000 people just by opening my mouth. I mean, it doesn't seem to be even, I appreciate that the marketing company that we utilize, they're throwing this number out here, maybe to justify their fee, but what does the 426 million impressions mean?
So impressions are the number of people that it has exposure to.
Potential.
Potentially.
What's the measurement for us, honestly, is the other figures. How many people get drawn to our website, how many people visit, how much are, fed taxes, yes, the ratio of impressions to action is extremely low.
Yeah.
So you got 426 million, and we look at the previous page,
yeah,
where we have 51 requests for information.
Exactly.
Exactly, yeah.
That's exactly.
Yeah, but wonder what the industry standard is the question out of the potential, the gross potential views to what comes to fruition.
And what the cost per impression is.
Yeah.
0.00000.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's like the, how they look at doing mailing pieces, right?
Yeah.
You send letters to people's house, the open rate and the action, it's very, very low.
Yeah, and.
The term is circulation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, yes,
Circulation.
but agreed that every vendor in this chain is going to seek to make theirs as large as possible.
Sure.
Just by the nature of what they want.
I was just trying to draw relevance. I mean, you look at
Yeah.
426 million.
Yes.
well, there's-
Yeah,
there's only 330 million people that live in.
right. They might have looked at these things 2 or 3 times each.
Yeah, I mean, much the way, this is the way
And it
that
can be double counted.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
the industry uses to sort of count their success. Hopefully they're using the same way that everybody else does.
Yeah, so.
It's a Google
Right.
analysis, I think is what they're doing. But just to continue, so the ad equivalency is an interesting number because again, it's a sort of a derivative number, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so who's applied the actual value factor and all those sort of things.
Yeah, right.
And
again, that's a common way that they would try and attempt to justify why we should spend money with them because they get us free advertising.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd say it's not that big because we're pitching stories. But yeah, but it is, yeah, we're not paying $2 million for that. So,
Absolutely.
yes.
Right.
So moving on, our social media content, we've been publishing our stories on a weekly basis. So if you follow us on social media, you see stories on the weekly. We're projected for that. Our impressions and engagements are slightly behind. We changed strategy in beginning of fourth quarter, and we hope that strategy we will be able to get close, if not meet our goals. Part of that is we are seeing overall in the market, and tourism will stay the same, is that they were tied to social media all through the pandemic, and then they kind of got sick of social media, and so they're not really being as engaged in social media as they were like a year ago or even 2 years ago. So we've changed our strategy on that in fourth quarter. So
doesn't it also matter? It's one thing for someone to have impressions and engagement, but within that engagement, how long do they stay on the site? How many clicks do they go on the site? That's important.
So actually on our website, we can provide that information. And actually our website, our engagement on our website is quite high.
Well,
And the amount of
that's
time that they
the
spend
point
on the time is quite high. But when it comes to social media, you're absolutely correct. Right. So our digital ambassador program, we're continuing with that.
So who would a digital ambassador be?
So a digital ambassador is a member of the community that we have recruited to help promote our stories on our social media, as well as any other stories that we may have, like our press releases and things like that. So we have.
Are they known as influencers?
Influencers, our local influencers. So.
You should be one, though.
So, and we welcome everyone.
I'm not even influential in my own home.
To be influencers, we are constantly recruiting our influencers. We were using a program called Social Toasters. We will no longer be using them as of after November 15th. One of the issues was that Social Toasters, in their effort to be transparent, they put their privacy statement right in the front. And it scared a lot of people. And so while they were really interested in becoming a digital ambassador, when they saw that privacy statement, they're like, oh, we're not sure. So we're going to bring it in-house.
How many digital ambassadors do you have?
So we have right now 41 digital ambassadors. And we recruited, I would say about 15 people were frightened by that privacy statement.
Do you have a criteria for someone to be a digital ambassador?
No, so we have very low criteria.
Well, Don could be.
Positive or a negative?
Yeah, so we want somebody who is willing to share our, and what we do is we actually package all these stories. So all they do is they have the choice to share them or not. They don't have to share all our stories. And we ask that they share our stories in a positive manner. That they also, that they share in a positive manner. That they, and then we also we do a little bit of looking of what their social media presence is, that we want somebody with a little bit of a social media presence. Not someone who just has a Facebook page, but is actually active. So
what is the benefit to the ambassador? What do they get back in return?
So the benefit that they get is that it actually adds engagement to their social media because people are interacting with them, and then it's increasing their likes and engagement.
Bigger, better ambassadors.
And it also gives them a little bit of
Get sell more apples.
yeah, like they're known as somebody who's like in the know and things like that. So there is.
Name and
Thank you. Yeah, so there is interest in that. So we are going to, the benefit of using social toasters was that we were able to get numbers on on the ambassadors' engagement through that. But now that we're bringing in-house, we're not going to have access to that number. So we're looking at how we can measure their engagement without having something like social toasters in place. So, that is our digital ambassador program. At the very last is our site selector newsletters. We published one in first quarter. That was the Amazon securing. We have 3 more scheduled. One will go out at the end of the month regarding education. These are newsletters. So we have internally published 16 newsletters. You have that? This is the idea. You're ahead. You're ahead.
Oh, I apologize. Okay. There we go.
There you go. So we have published 16 newsletters in-house, but only one specifically for site selectors. We have 3 more scheduled to go in fourth quarter. One is going to be related to workforce and education. The other one is a year end of all the projects that we've done. And then the third one will be announcements on some.
Is it a strategy that most of them happen in the fourth quarter? Is it because we just went, oh, we haven't done them yet? And we got
No, it's a strategy that we are looking at because we're doing education and workforce because in 2022, we hope to launch our talent attraction program. So that is kind of like a teaser in our talent attraction. And then a year-end report was always something that we do every year, and then an announcement on our projects of the IDA. So it wasn't like oops, but it does look like an oops, but it's not an oops. It's a plan strategy. And then the last 2 are the outcomes of the IDA and LDC. So far this year, the IDA has approved and closed on 9 projects. We are pending closed. North Cross closed on 10/15. That'll bring that number up to 10. And then we have in the queue, the Arthur May redevelopment and Built Parcel 3 are still in the queue, as well as now Amazon. I mean, I'm not Amazon. Frito-Lay is also will be added to the queue. So. And then the last one is the LDC. We are on track to close on 3 projects at the end of the year. The third project being the culinary, which closed on 10/21. So with that ends my third quarter report.
It's interesting that the target for capital investment in LDC is $75 million.
Say it again.
The target for investment in capital investment for LDC was $75 million. And I guess we must have chosen that because of past history,
Yeah,
but it was a
exactly.
little
Yeah, so
ambitious.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it's so, yeah,
Oh.
yeah,
It's so difficult to really know what to expect in that year to year.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, and then the last thing on the agenda that I do need the board to approve is our third quarter county submission for reimbursement. It is basically aligns with the reporting I did before. I will just say the only number that is different is our social media impressions are much higher because it includes what we call secondary impressions from our earned media.
That's a normal standard way of
That's a normal
reporting
standard
that.
way of reporting that.
Okay,
I'll make a motion.
Second.
okay, Jasmine,
Paul Doyle, Amy Bonadari,
Aye.
Andrew Collins,
Approve.
John Siciliano,
Approved.
Jim Green.
approved. Okay, I appreciate everybody's patience and length of time spent at the meeting. Oh, I'm sorry, can we do one other thing really quickly? That has to do with the schedule next year. All right, so our normal schedule is the second Wednesday of each month. I have a challenge in February, April, and September with that day. And so my question to the members was, is it possible that we could move that to the third in February and April and September, the third Wednesday of the month?
just for those months.
Yes.
April, definitely. I'm out of town too.
February is good.
So just to let you know, if you, the third Wednesday of the
Oh,
month is the chamber.
I'm sorry.
No, no, so, but it's, I can send a representative, I can,
Okay.
the board meeting, so it doesn't affect me, but I didn't know if everyone on the board attends the chamber meetings regularly, that would impact.
I think the problem with going to the second Wednesday, the first Wednesday was that you would not have financials available at the time. So,
So can you just restate those?
so that would be, we would go to February 16th, April 20th, and September 21st on those months. Again, tentatively, how does that?
Works for me.
Works for me.
I'd rather do that than rearrange the whole schedule. Yeah. Okay, all right. So I think we're good. All right, so we can now adjourn. Thank you all for coming and I appreciate your patience. Bye now.